All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Kristen Maestrel. I am the Assistant Director with New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, and I want to thank you all so much for taking the time this evening to join us in our second Freshwater Fisheries Public Forum of the year. But before we begin, I am very pleased to announce that our new freshwater fishing regulations went into effect last month. And I think you've heard about these changes over the last year, and we really hope that these changes will provide you all with more opportunity to get out there while still conserving our freshwater fisheries for years to come. Now, the Freshwater Fishing Digest hit the shelves earlier this month, but you can still download a copy from our website if you need to. And this year's cover features Brad, who's a young angler who's showing off his Super Cat, which is courtesy of our Hackettstown Hatchery. Now, we do have some exciting changes to our trout regulations, which you will hear more about later tonight. So I will go over a couple of the other regulation changes that we have, including lake trout regulations have been changed to allow for more harvest at both Round Valley and Merrill Creek reservoirs, and there is no closed season. Both Round Valley and Merrill Creek reservoirs are now managed under the Lunker Bass regulation set. And we have 11 native fish species that have been added to the endangered, threatened, and special concern list. So there are plenty of other regulation changes that are highlighted in red in the digest. So make sure that you take a look before you head out there. Now, before I kick it over to Sean Krause, who is our Bureau Chief of Freshwater Fisheries, I do have a couple exciting bits of information to share with you all. So first, New Jersey DEP Fish and Wildlife has secured funding to take this first step towards modernizing our hatchery system. So this will be both for Pequest and Hackettstown. This first step will help fund a study that will provide us with a comprehensive roadmap to enhance our efficiencies, increase sustainability, improve our biosecurity, and may even offer some ways to potentially expand to different species. Now, as always, the staff at both of our hatcheries do an amazing job year after year. And despite some of the antiquated systems that we may have at our hatcheries, they have been doing an amazing job to continue that work. So this plan is to modernize the hatchery system, which will hopefully improve our stocking program. I'm also happy to share that staff behind the scenes have been actively working on a plan to bring back brown trout into our stocking program. Now, staff, they have been kicking around a couple different ideas, and we are hoping to do this safely and effectively. And while we may or may not have the ability to bring this into our stocking program this year, we're pretty hopeful that we will have more information next year to share. And so with that, I wish you all good luck this year as I hand it over to Sean Krause.
Thanks for that introduction, Kristen. I appreciate it. So yeah, welcome to our annual public trout meeting. I'm Sean Krause, Chief of Freshwater Fisheries. We're looking forward to a very informative and interactive meeting tonight. Our first meeting that we held last month focused on our warm water and our cool water fisheries across the state. That meeting was recorded, and a video of that meeting can be found on our website. So if you missed it, or if you want to share it with a friend, or just watch it again, go to njfishandwildlife.com and you can find that. Also want to make a plug for our next and final meeting of 2026, and that's going to be centered around aquatic invasive species, a topic of growing importance and potential misunderstanding. That meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 22nd. Tonight, you're going to see and hear two presentations that are going to be followed by one question and answer period. Our first presenter is Ed Conley, our hatchery superintendent, and he'll go over the production cycle of trout at our Pequest hatchery, including numbers from last year and projections for 2026. The second speaker is Kyle Civalier. He's one of our biologists who is responsible for the general fisheries management within the Middle Delaware River watersheds, including Assunpink Creek, Crosswicks Creek, and some Atlantic coastal watersheds from Matawan Creek down to Lower Little Egg Harbor watersheds. Kyle also runs our Skillful Angler program. And most pertinent to tonight's meeting is he also serves as our statewide trout stocking coordinator. He'll be discussing changes to the 2026 trout stocking program, as well as providing an overview of our new trout-related regulations. Once again, we're going to hold all questions until Kyle's finished, and then we're going to open up, save plenty of time at the end of the meeting for comments and question and answering. As for a little bit of housekeeping, please remember to keep yourself muted at all times until we get to the Q&A session. When we get to that portion of the meeting, you'll have an opportunity to comment or question. To do this, use the raise your hand function on your computer screen, and that way staff will know that you're interested in speaking. At that point, if and when you're called upon, you'll be instructed to unmute your microphone. Make sure you do that. And please keep your questions relative to trout. And that could be trout related, our stocking programs. It could be based on our wild trout resources or regulations. And in case you miss anything or want to share this meeting with a friend, this meeting too will be recorded and posted on njfishandwildlife.com within about a week or two. Before we get started, I wanted to acknowledge how happy we are with the new fishing regulation changes. They're focused on increasing angler opportunity and simplifying regulations. This long process, and believe me, a long process, began with grassroots efforts, listening to you, the angler, public meetings, emails, conversations over the years has been the culmination of these changes. It also includes conversations and data from our biologists, our hatchery managers, our conservation police officers, and we work very closely with the Fish and Game Council. For those of you who know, they serve as a direct line of communication with New Jersey State Federation of Sportsmen Clubs, and it's a very important relationship for anglers to be able to pass on their what they like, what they don't like, and that's where change is often initiated. And all the while, we are incorporating the best available science to make these decisions. And finally, I also want to address our new trout stock water signs that some of you may have seen in the 2026 Freshwater Fishing Digest and in a recent Facebook post from our agency. These signs are universal and no longer provide water body specific information. Instead, they contain a QR code that can be scanned to provide detailed information, such as the full trout stocking schedule, the Trout Stock Waters app, which is great if you haven't seen it yet, and our new fishing regulations app. It'll also include a link to our trout fishing page on the website. These online features are still being tweaked to make sure that the information is more accessible. But they're really fantastic. A lot of great information, more information than ever to make your exploration of our waters easier and more productive. Please keep in mind that the primary function of these signs has always been simply to indicate where our trout are stocked. If you see a trout stocking sign on a lake or river, it means we put trout there, and that's really the primary function. As a sportsman, it is your obligation to know before you go. Look up the regulations in our digest, call, email, use our apps, use whatever tools are available to understand the regulations. And if you're confused when you're out in the field, simply scan the QR code with your phone, and there's an app that shows you where you're standing. You can click out to find out how many trout are stocked there, and what the seasons and creel limits and enclosures consist of. These apps are also very helpful in identifying where our wild trout streams are, since those lack signage altogether. The new signs are made more durable and are intended to last 5 to 10 years and will result in a significant cost savings. And during Kyle's presentation, he's going to briefly demonstrate one of the apps to give you a feel for that. So I guess with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Ed Conley, our superintendent of the Pequest Trout Hatchery. It's all yours, Ed.
Welcome to tonight's meeting. Sean said I'll be going over hatchery production, and I just going to share my screen here. So 2025 fall egg collection. This past fall, we took 1.7 million rainbow trout eggs from 594 3-year-old female rainbow trout. 3-year-old rainbow trout are preferred year class of trout. There's a better hatch with them. We can get eggs out of 2-year-olds, but we prefer the 3-year-olds. Usually in late August, we start sexing the fish by sex. And then August through October, we check weekly to see if the fish are ripe. When the females become ripe, the eggs are stripped and fertilized with the milk from the males. The eggs are then brought inside to be rinsed and water hardened. Once the eggs are completely rinsed and hardened, we complete an egg count. The eggs are then disinfected, rinsed again, and then the eggs are measured into the hatching trays where they'll be for approximately 32 days. Eggs are then hatched. The sac fry will derive nutrition up the sac for approximately 10 to 14 days until they start coming up for feed, and then they are called fry. The rainbow trout are reared in the nursery building until March. When the fish start going out for the raceways in the spring there, we start moving them out. Basically, this is kind of what I just said, and as you can see, we sterilize the raceways, we clean them. You see a nice fresh raceway there. Growth will continue to be monitored monthly outside, as it is inside as well. Feed amounts and sizes are adjusted monthly to reach our final goals for the stocking programs. Finally, after 18 months of rearing, the rainbow trout are ready to begin being stocked for the spring stocking come mid-March. After 24 months of rearing, trout for the fall program are ready to be stocked. Selected rainbow trout are held to become 2-year-old and 3-year-old brood stock to continue the cycle. Now I'm going to jump into last year's production for 2025 spring stocking. We stocked about 581,000 production size, averaging about 11.4 inches. Along with that, we stocked 7,855 breeders, which are a mix of 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds. Some of these fish measure up to 26 inches. The total fish was 588,480. Fall rainbow trout production, we stocked 20,580 fish that were 2-year-old, and they measured a 14.7-inch average. Along with that, 950 3-year-old rainbow trout breeders at an average length of 21.4. Again, and these fish measure up to 26 inches for a total of 21,530 for the fall. 2025 winter rainbow trout, 2-year-olds. We stocked 4,480, measuring at a 14.3-inch average. Grand total stocked in New Jersey public waters for 2025 was 614,490 rainbow trout, weighing in at a whopping 373,469 pounds. As you can see, these are great looking fish, and there's a happy angler there on the right of your screen. This year, last year for Hook Winter program, where we tagged more than 100,000 rainbow trout for release in the New Jersey waters. Every year, we had 97 tag returns, which is pretty common. We're usually around 10% every year. Jumping into spring 2026 projections, we're going to stock 188,640 prior to opening day. The rest of the 570,000 will be stocked during 7 weeks. The breakdowns on the screen, as you can see. There's a nice picture of a 3-year-old breeder there. Preseason stocking this year begins on March 23rd, 2026. Kyle will give you some of the changes that are going to go on this year for the spring stocking. I'll just go over them briefly. More than 180,000. Like I said, we're going to be stocked for opening day, which will be April 11th, 2026. Spring stocking begins on March 23rd, 2026. Lakes and ponds will be open to fishing year-round this year. That's one of the changes Kyle's going to go over. And 23 new waters are being added. For the fall this year, we're changing up. The winter program is going to be combined with the fall stocking, and we're also going to include 4,000 extra trout to make a bigger program and allow anglers to catch these fish when they're more able to. Stocking will begin this year for the fall on October 13th, 2026, and 12 new water bodies are being added to this. And as always, I want to remind everyone, buy your 2026 fishing and license. And I want to wish you good luck this season. And I'm going to hand it over to Kyle and let him talk about the changes for 2026.
Thanks, Ed. Like I was saying, my name's Kyle Civalier. I'm a freshwater fisheries biologist for New Jersey Fish and Wildlife, and I also run our trout stocking program. So I'm going to be going over some overview of what the 2026 spring trout program will look like, as well as our changes that we made for this year, which we think you guys are going to love. So this year alone, we're going to be stocking 192 water bodies throughout the whole state, which covers all 21 counties. Of those 192 water bodies, 84 are going to be streams and rivers, while 108 are going to be lakes and ponds. And as always, our baseline this year was 570,000 rainbow trout. Just to give a quick overview of how we come about our numbers for our allocation program, for streams and rivers and lakes and ponds, it's all broken down into 3 factors: physical, biological, and social. Physical factors for your streams and rivers and lakes or ponds are based off of flow size, length of stocking influence on rivers, and surface area on lakes and ponds. Biological factors for both streams and rivers and lakes or ponds are the same, whether water body is seasonal or year-round water. And for our social factors for streams and rivers, going down into how much of it is public versus private, how much public access or parking access there is, as well as angler interest in that water body. And for lakes and ponds, it's due to the population density for the municipalities that are adjacent to the lake, as well as angler access, how much open shoreline there is, if it's greater than 10 acres, whether or not it has boat access to it, as well as how many other trout stocked water bodies are within a 10-mile radius. So our 2026 spring trout stocking program is going to be the same as it's been in the past years. It's going to be a 7-week in-season stocking with 3 weeks of preseason stocking. As Ed said in his presentation, this year preseason starts on March 23rd, and the closure, which is only for rivers and streams this year, that's one of the changes we made, begins March 23rd and rolls through April 10th, 2026, and our opening day is going to be April 11th, 2026 at 8 a.m. We have our bonus broodstock program, as always. It's our 3-year-old fish that we choose 9 to 10 lakes and ponds throughout New Jersey, and they will get anywhere between 30 and 50 of these large trout. We like to put them in there for you guys to catch these big broodstocks. Gives these lakes and the anglers that want to fish it a great chance of catching one of these big size trout. For this year, these are our 9 bodies of water that we chose for the 2026 spring trout bonus broodstock program. We have Barber's Pond, which will get 50 broodstock, Crystal Lake, which will get 50, Echo Lake will get 30 broodstock, GM Petro Park Lake will get 50 broodstock, Nomahegan Park Pond will get 30 broodstock, North Hudson Park Lake will get 50, Oak Pond will get 50 bonus broodstock, Oldham Pond will get 50 bonus broodstock, and Ponder Lodge Pond will get 30. And as this shows you on the map, that these ponds are spread out all the way up in Oldham Pond, all the way down to Ponder Lodge in Cape May. So there's a local water body near you that will be stocked with these large bonus broodstock fish. Now I'd like to go over the important part of this presentation, which is our new changes to the trout stocking program. First one will be that opening day will now always be the 2nd Saturday in April. That way you guys don't have to worry about trying to figure out and plan when's opening day going to be and when can I go out fishing. You will now know that you can look at a calendar, and if it's the 2nd Saturday, that's going to be opening day. We also like that this kind of goes away from maybe the bad weather in the beginning of April, so it gives the chance of it being a nice day for everybody to get out there and enjoy opening day. We also removed the 3-week preseason closure on all of our trout stocked lakes and ponds. We did this for a multitude of reasons. One is we'd like to give you guys an extra 3 weeks to get out there and catch these fish on our lakes and ponds. We also like the fact that this gives you guys the chance to get out there and make sure that you can catch these fish before the cormorants and the mergansers get to them. We know that's been an issue, and this removal of this will allow you anglers to get out there and get them hopefully before they do. And also we like the fact that it allows anglers that may not want to fish for trout, but will want to fish one of our lake, like trout stocked waters. It'll allow them to get out there and fish for bass, crappies, yellow perch, muskies, northern pike. It opens it up and gives everybody opportunities to fish these waters. We are also going to be reducing the summer, fall, and winter creel from 4 a day to 2 a day. We did this so that in the fall specifically, we will allow those fish to make it longer throughout the fall and also into the winter and late winter, early spring months and weeks, so that more people can get out there and enjoy these nice size fish that we stock in the fall. We will also be combining our winter and fall stocking seasons, and I will talk more about that, more specifics later on in the presentation. But what we will be doing is we'll be taking those winter fish and moving them into the fall. And then if you have any more interest in any more details on these things, we do have our recorded virtual fish code meeting on our website. You can get a lot more in-depth detailed information there if you'd like. So here's our quick simplified version of our new general regulations for trout stocked waters. For lakes and ponds, from January 1st until opening day, which this year it's April 11th, it will be 2 trout at 9 inches instead of what it was being 4. And then once opening day hits until the end of May 31st, it will go to its normal 6 fish at 9 inches. And then June 1st to the end of the year, it will go back to that 2 fish at 9 inches. And then for rivers and streams, it will be January 1st to preseason. So this year till March 22nd, it will be that 2 fish at 9 inches instead of the 4. And then we will have our preseason closure this year, March 23rd to April 11th. And then opening day, it'll go back to the 6 fish at 9 inches. And then the same as lakes and ponds, once June 1st hits to December 31st, it will go back to the 2 at 9 inches. As Ed said in his presentation, we are adding an additional 23 small ponds to our spring trout stocking program. As you can see from the map to the right, we are adding a lot of these waters. They're spread out throughout the state. So there's a new water body somewhere near you that will be added. These are all small ponds. We think that'll give everybody great accessibility. They're great access. There's great parking, shoreline access. All these are going to be great additions to the program. And we hope if there's one, the one that's near you, you can get out and take advantage of it. We did drop 2 trout stocked water bodies for this year. Colonial Lake in Mercer Township, or Mercer County, excuse me, was dropped from the program. We did this for 2 reasons. During our opening day angler surveys, pretty much most years there was 0 fish caught within the first 4 hours, so we had very low catch rates. And then also on our trout stocked water body angler survey, online angler survey, 50% of the people who took our survey were either unsatisfied or very unsatisfied with the water body. So rather than continue to throw fish in there that nobody can take advantage of and people are unsatisfied with it, we decided to drop it and use those fish in better water bodies. We also dropped Neldon Brook in Sussex County. This was done because our original stocking points were on private property and the owner didn't like the trash and the ruts that were being made. So they decided to not allow access to us anymore or to fishermen. And then also the other public points were poorly attended. So we decided to drop it and use those fish elsewhere in better water bodies. We do have 3 mileage updates, additions that we made to 3 of our rivers and streams in the state. We added 0.6 miles to Lopatcon Creek in Warren County. This worked out to be an addition of 420 trout. We also added a mile of trout stocking to Pompton River in Passaic County. This equaled out to roughly 1,350 extra trout for the Pompton River. And for the Raritan River North Branch in Somerset County, we added 2.1 miles, which is the picture on the right is the Natterar Park, which is where our trout stocking points. It's a great park, a lot of public access. And this added up to 4,330 trout to the Raritan River North Branch. As Sean said at the beginning of the presentation, this is our new trout stocked water sign. It will have a QR code on it, as well as this other quick information. When you scan the QR code, you will be brought to a landing page that will have our trout stocking schedule there, the ability to download it as a PDF. It will have a link to our Trout Stocked Waters app. It will have a link to the Fishing Regulations app, as well as our spring trout and general trout fishing information page on our website. So now I'm just going to go through what that's going to look like, just a quick example of what you will see when you scan that QR code. The first thing that will happen is you'll get brought to our landing page, which will have these three, as well as the link to our just trout fishing page in general. If you click on the Trout Stocked Waters page, it will bring you to this screen, which is our app. It has all of our trout stocked lakes, lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams. You can zoom in to which one you're looking for. You can search for it in that search bar up top. You can actually also, below the button that looks like a house on the left, if you click that, it is actually a GPS locator. You will have to allow access to allow the website to view your location, but once you do that, it'll zoom in right to the water body that you're on. And then, just for example, I did the Musconetcong River. If you click on that river, and it'll bring you to this page, which will give you the dates of when they will be stocked, how many trout are stocked during those weeks, the total number of trout that are stocked, any closures. So obviously for Musconetcong River, it is a river or stream, so it will have that preseason closure on it. And then the Musconetcong River also has a Friday closure, and that will list that as well. And then if you'd like to know the general regulations or the creel limits, length limits, if you click the button there that says Open and Fresh Fishing Regulations app, if you're in the Musconetcong River, it'll take you to this screen, so it'll already have zoomed in for you to the water body you are on. If you click on that, it will bring up this screen, which will give you the ability to look at any special water body regulations that may be on that water body, such as for the Musconetcong River, it is in the brook trout conservation area, so that regulation will come up. If you're on a trophy trout lake, those regulations will come up. Lunker bass regulation, any special water body regulations will be listed there. You can also click on the general regulations, which will come up with just an overview of general regulations that are in our fishing digest, such as age limit, license limit, boundary waters, those type of things. And then if you click on the species harvest regulations, that will bring up a table that will have all of the regulations for the freshwater fish that we have. And then as you can see in the orange, those are ones that are slightly different than statewide, but for the Musconetcong River, it'll show the rainbow trout, brown trout, any other trout or any other fish that are there. And this will give you the creel limits, length limits, and everything like that. So we think it's a great new thing to have. It's a great app. It's very easy to use. It's just a point and click type of thing. And we're hoping that you guys take advantage of this and you'll be able to view any regulation you need right on your phone. Now I want to talk just a little bit about our fall and winter trout stocking program, how we're combining the two. We are combining the fall and the winter into one program. It'll just be the fall trout stocking program. We are stocking nearly 60 rivers, lakes, and ponds. We are taking the 21,000 from the fall program, 4,000 from the winter, and we're adding an extra 4,000 to bring it to 29,000 trout for the fall. These are still going to be our 14 to 16 inch length fish like always. This year, as Ed mentioned, it will start on October 13th. We're happy to say that we're going to be stocking a lot more waters. We're having more trout. And we think that moving the winter into the fall will give you guys more fishing opportunities in those warmer October days. If you're worried about ice fishing, we know that with our change from 4 to 2 fish during the winter, we're hoping that spreads those fall trout further into the winter and into those ice fishing months that everybody wants to take advantage of. As Ed said, we are adding 12 new waters to the fall trout stocking program this year. Corliss Park in Ocean County, DNR Feeder Canal, Darnards Lake, Echo Lake, Lamington River, Manny's Pond, Mountain Farm Pond, Passaic River Lower, the Raritan River, Shepherd's Lake, Tallahassee Lake, and Wooddale County Park Pond. So these 12 are going to be great for you guys in that area, get some nice trout to go and catch. We are removing some waters from the fall stocking program. Colonial Lake, as I said, was dropped from the trout program as a whole, so it is not eligible to be in the fall trout stocking program. Mill Pond in Bergen is still suspended. It is going through a dredging project. Once it is completed, then that will get re-added back into the program. And then, as you can see, our three rivers, the Black River, the Big Flat Brook, specifically upstream of Route 206, and the Wallkill River upstream of Passaic Street Bridge. We dropped those from the fall stocking program due to the drought issues we've been having. And even in years where we haven't been in a drought, these have always given us problems with low water. So we, rather than fight it, we just decided to drop it and put those fish into the lower sections of those rivers. I just wanted to go over a few changes, more updates for the 2026 spring trout stocking season this year. For suspensions this year, as I said, Mill Pond and Bergen will still be suspended due to sedimentation. Once that is completed, then that will be restocked. Lake Shenandoah in Ocean is still going under dam construction. They're hoping that they will have that done this year, so next year and possibly fall that we will be able to stock that with trout. Atwater Pond, Cooper Pond, and Deer Path Park Pond are all one of our three of our 23 new water bodies. Unfortunately, they are having construction issues with the dams and dredging projects, but once those are completed, they will go into the spring trout stocking program. We did have a decrease on the Rockaway River lower. We had a 0.2 mile reduction due to one of the points having some safety concerns from our lands management and stocking crew. So we decided to drop it to make sure that they are safe when they stock these beautiful fish. Just a real quick couple of two slides I'm going to have. Just wanted to let you guys know that the Pequannock River is going to be changed from general trout regulations to trout stocked wild brown trout managed. It's the railroad trestle below Applet Park downstream to Hamburg Turnpike Bridge was a seasonal TCA regulations will apply. But the Route 23 Smith Rills to Railroad Trestle below Applet Park was the general trout fishing regs. As I said, they will change to trout stocked wild brown trout managed. So minimum size for brown trout will be increased from 9 inches to 12 inches. The total creel for all combined trout remains the same, but only 2 of them can be brown trout. So it'll give you guys a good chance to get out there and everybody have a chance to catch our wild brown trout. And then for lake trout regulations, Merrill Creek Reservoir and Round Valley Reservoir, our regulations have changed. There are no catch and release season anymore. It's open to year-round harvest at both of our reservoirs. In Merrill Creek, it's now 2 fish at 15 inches to 24 inches, and then 2 fish greater than or equal to 24 inches. And at Round Valley Reservoir, it's actually 8 fish at 15 to less than 24, but 1 fish greater than or equal to 24. And with that, I'm going to end it. And if anybody has any questions, now we can be open for questions.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kyle. Tremendous job as always. I just want to jump in here real quick to transition us to the next portion of the meeting. We view these meetings as being interactive, right? We don't want to just sit here and tell you what's going on. We want it to be a two-way street. So at this point in time, I'm going to ask all of our staff that's on the call to please turn your cameras on. I hope everybody on this call can appreciate, how much time and effort goes into these resources, for us to all enjoy. So as you'll see these faces, these are the heroes behind the scenes that fight for your interests, protect the resources you care about. Raise the fish, stock the fish, manage the fish, everything above, communicate, with you. I'm just really proud of this team. And we're going to open this up at this point. Chris Smith is going to be calling on you. So if you see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see that react tool. I saw that being used quite a bit, and I saw lots of thumbs ups, lots of hearts, and lots of claps. I think that's it made me feel pretty good about things. And I'm sure staff feels the same way. So at this point, if you have any questions, please use the hand raise tool. Chris will call on you. You have to remember to unmute yourself. I think that's a flaw that sometimes happens, it slows down the meeting. So as soon as you get called on, go ahead and unmute yourself, let it rip. Constructive criticism is appreciated, but compliments are always preferred. So let's get it started.
All right, thanks, Sean. And just to reiterate what Sean just said, I will call on everybody's name, and then you'll have to unmute yourself, and then you can ask the question. So I'm going to do first name, last initial, So wait to be called. So the first person up is Glenn M.
Okay, so I only have two quick questions. I do live in Mercer County. I fish a lot in the feeder canal from Hunterdon to Mercer, and I think there's a little bit of confusion because when I searched the internet, one of the things I found is that New Jersey DEP does not consider the canal a river or a stream, but it's also not a lake or a pond. So as far as for that pre-season closure, because it's an artificial waterway, I was just hoping to get clarification as to whether the feeder canal is closed during that 3-week period. And my second question is around Rosedale Lake in Hopewell Township. And my question for that is that since they stopped stocking Colonial, but Rosedale is still stocked, Rosedale is very difficult because of the growth around the lake. There is not a lot of places for fishermen to fish from the bank. And I was just wondering if there's any plans from the state to try to make a little bit more bank access at Rosedale. Thank you for taking my questions.
Thanks, Glenn. I can jump in to answer one or both of those questions. Great question about the canal. We knew that would come up. The canal is going to be treated as a river or stream. So we are going to be maintaining the pre-season closure for the canals, both the feeder canal and the DNR main canal. Secondly, for Rosedale, Scott, I'm not sure if you're aware of any plans. It's not a state-owned lake, so we're not going to be managing the shoreline or the vegetation in any way. And although shoreline access isn't fantastic there, it's one of the opportunities where you could also launch the car top, provide plenty of access in general. And Scott, unless you have anything additional to add to that, well, thank you for your question.
Yeah, I can jump in, Sean. I've been there, for the last few years, just for multiple reasons. And the access there's some access on kind of not all the way around the whole entire lake, but there is pretty good shoreline access on at least one or two sides. But we are seeing still good angler turnout, and it's one of the ones that's still kind of popular, but it's something we can talk with the parks about and see if they can improve anything for sure.
Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate your answers.
The next person we're going to call on is Luke L. Luke, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, good evening. Started the meeting. That was awesome news. Bring the funding for the hatchery system. I guess just two questions around that. So with the funding secured, I guess what are the start and end dates for when the expansion project is going to be started and ended? And also, will that impact the current production of trout when that's going on?
Yeah, so I can answer that. So so just to clarify, the funding that we have right now is to assess both of the hatcheries. So we're going to be bringing in outside consultants to make those assessments and then provide different options for us to be able to make a plan. And so that'll likely take a year or so. I'm gonna assume that it'll take about a year to get through that process, where we'll have that study and that information, and then likely what we'll have to do is then we have to go into design and then eventually go into construction. So that that will take some time. Working through some of the state processes too can be that'll take some time as well. But so the study itself should take just about a year, and then we'll have a better understanding of what we're looking at.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and I think also to address your other question, so that'll also be part of the study too, is kind of coming up with that plan on how we can make these changes without having major impacts to the hatchery systems. We know that a lot of states nearby have been doing a similar exercise, and so we can also be looking to some of the other states as well to see how they operate.
Thank you.
If I could just add a little bit, great answer, Kristen. If I could add a little bit to that, we have ongoing infrastructure projects at both of our hatcheries, like ongoing now, and there's always steps taken to minimize any reduction in output. One example is we are currently engineering and designing renovations to all 7 of our wells. So we typically need 6 at a time. There's always one spare. So that's going to be done very strategical. We're not going to shut down all wells at the same time, obviously. It'll be, in linear fashion, one at a time until that's complete. Then we can take another well offline. So it'll work out.
Thank you. Just like a closing question, perhaps. I think other people will be curious about this. You mentioned bringing back brown trout to the stocking program. Is there any like estimated time when that's going to be seen from other anglers?
Yeah, so we're unsure about this year. It's more unlikely that it'll happen this year. But we are hopeful that we'll be able to start making some introduction, perhaps even as early as next year, and continue to grow that. The hope, especially with the hatchery renovations, the hope is to eventually be able to raise brown trout in our facilities in a safe way that protects both the brown trout and rainbow trout and any other fish species that we will be raising. And so that's sort of the ultimate goal, is to incorporate that into some of the renovations. But we're taking steps between now and then to try to slowly bring that back. So potentially as early as next year.
Amazing news. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. The next person up is Robert S.
First of all, I'm really excited about this year's trout season. I'm 63 years old. I've lived in this state all my life. My father taught me trout fishing since I was 5 years old. So I've seen the ups and downs of what's going on with the state. Question, guys, I'm excited about the brown trout. When will the brook trout ever come back? I mean, we had a great brook trout, coming out of that hatchery, and then I guess the disease hit, and I haven't heard anything about possibly in the future of brook trout coming back.
Yeah, I can tackle that one. So yeah, everything's going to be stepwise. Brown trout has been the larger interest amongst anglers. So kind of step one, let's focus on brown trout and let's integrate that back into our program. Secondly, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna try to fake anything here. There's very little interest amongst our staff and neighboring states to reintroduce brook trout. Ross is very engaged in a cooperative Eastern brook trout joint venture, and there's a lot of concern with stocking brook trout on top of wild populations, and we're just quite frankly not all that interested in going in that direction at this point in time. As brook trout are native fish, and I often hear people say that's a reason to stock it. But there's also a reason to really appreciate those wild populations that we do have and do what we can to manage them in a more effective way. Multiple threats to brook trout up and down the entire East Coast, primarily, land use changes, water quality degradation, habitat loss, fragmentation, and also competition and predation by stocked and non-native fish. So we really don't see brook trout coming back into our stocking program, at least at this point in time.
We'll go down to the next person, Richard P.
Hi. I have 2 questions. The first one is about stocking in the North Branch of the Raritan in Branchburg along River Road between Miller and Stony Brook. And if you don't know exactly where that is, it's just north of North Branch Park. There was stocking going on there, and I'm under the impression that was discontinued last year. And if it's true, I'd like to know why, if you have an answer. And then I'll quickly give you my second question, which is, do you have any information on a potential stream restoration project on the south branch of the Raritan through Ken Lockwood Gorge?
Yeah, Richard, I can take that first one. So that location that you're talking about, I believe that's the park, and there's another location there that's just upstream from there that we stock. It's the power lines, and that was being considered for dropping from the stocking program. We haven't dropped it. Those locations are being kept on for this year. I'm keeping a close eye on it because it did on opening day. I was there last year, and there weren't many anglers fishing it compared to most of the locations. There was actually, when I was doing my rounds, there weren't any anglers there, and on top of that, there was limited habitat in stream to hold fish there. So it was just keeping an eye on it. I didn't drop it from the program, but I'm keeping an eye on it just to see how how anglers are attended in the future. But it is being considered, and that might be why maybe the drivers were indicating that, but it hasn't been dropped.
Yeah, and I'll address the second part there about the Ken Lockwood Gorge. Yeah, we're currently in talks with a local fishing club in the area. They're definitely brought it to our attention that they're willing to help us out in looking into a habitat enhancement program. One of the funding sources that we were originally looking into seems to have dried up for at least this fiscal year. So we're trying to pivot to a different funding source, and there's some pretty good news there that it looks like that second funding source will be an active funding source for us. I don't want to give a lot of information at this point. I certainly don't want to make any promises, but yes, we're definitely looking into it, and we're very hopeful. So stay tuned for more information on that shortly. I can say it won't start until at the earliest anything would start would be after June 30th of this year, so July of this year. And when I say start, that's really even just similar to what Sean was saying in the hatchery, or Kristen and Sean were saying in the hatchery program. There's got to be a feasibility study first, and then engineering gets involved, and then finally implementation. So it could be a 1 or possibly 2-year project, but we are looking to start that in 2026 and 2027. So fingers crossed everything goes well, and we'll see an improvement there. And when I say improvement, we're really talking about in-stream habitat work, so pools and riffles and some new enhanced runs, along with some riparian corridor work, tree planting, things like that to keep some of the eroding road out of the stream. That's been a problem in the past. And there is potential for some road work, but at this time we're not looking into opening the road to full travel like it was done historically, because it's every couple of years the river takes the road, and we're just kind of shoveling sand against the tide in that situation there. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. The only other comment I might have is maybe you guys could put a new stocking sign up in that area if it's still viable on the Branchburg. It could be a reason why there's not so many people, but I saw quite a few people there in the past, but I hear you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Rich.
Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Next up is Charlie R.
Yeah. My question is with respect to Round Valley Reservoir. So since the reservoir has been refilled with the completion of the dam renovation project, the alewife herring population has reestablished itself in there, and there are huge schools of alewife herring now in Round Valley Reservoir, and as a result, we're starting to see some trophy brown trout being produced in Round Valley Reservoir once again. However, it's privately funded, and there's limited resources there to stock brown trout. So I'm pleased to hear that Fish and Wildlife is going to be raising brown trout in the future at Pequest. But my question is, in the meantime, for example, Fish and Wildlife externally sources landlocked salmon, for example, from Massachusetts. So I was wondering in the meantime if Fish and Wildlife could externally sourced brown trout from Massachusetts or somewhere else, specifically to help expand the trophy brown trout population in Grand Valley Reservoir?
Yeah, I can answer that. That is one of the considerations that's currently being discussed internally. Yep, outsourcing until future hatchery renovations can take place to stand on our own 2 feet. We are looking at the options of acquiring brown trout from neighboring states.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you for your question. Next up, we have Daniel G.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Quick shout out, Nick. Love the trout. Killer background tonight. Appreciate you. Appreciate everyone's hard work. I just wanted to ask a little bit about the Hook a Winner program. Last year, we had a great presenter talking about the native population of brook trout. It got me to go out and explore Hacklebarney State Park. I caught my first native New Jersey brook trout and released it, of course, on barbless hooks to support that program. And so my question is there a way that we can actively advertise where some of the Hook a Winner trout are going to actively incentivize anglers to enjoy new waters?
Yeah, I can take that question. So the way the Hook a Winner program works, we tag all the fish in 15 different pools that are released during the preseason stocking. So there's an equal opportunity for the Hook a Winner fish to be distributed everywhere out throughout the stocking program. So that's the best way we've decided to do that. So there's an equal opportunity for everywhere to get some Hook a Winner fish.
Cool. Awesome, guys.
We do see these fish. We still are getting them in the mail from last year. That 97 number I got was just from the other day. I believe we still got 3 or 4 that we need to send out here.
Cool. I appreciate it. I'll keep trying. Shamelessly for a patch, but I appreciate the effort, guys. It's great.
Yeah. Let me also add, because I think you're maybe even referring to is there something that tells you kind of where to go? So in our digest, I think it's page, let me look here. Page 20 on the digest is our wild trout stream regs. And in there, we break them down into 3 separate sections. So if you're looking for brook trout only, it's the blue section there. And those are kind of hand selected by the biologists region wide as to like the top places that you're most likely to be able to go and get a brook trout. There's also a section where it has both brook and brown. So if you're just looking to catch a wild fish, whether it's a native brookie or wild brown, those are all good suggestions of places to go. Of course, there's many other streams in the state that you could catch these wild brook trout and brown trout, but those are kind of hand selected as usually has some good parking and some good access along with good fisheries there. So that's where I would start if you're looking for some quality wild fish.
Awesome, Ross. I appreciate it. Thank you again, guys.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have Rick M.
Unmuted. So good evening. Thank you for taking my question. I'm from Cranford. I fish along the 78 corridor quite a bit. So I have a question regarding Round Valley, but first I'm going to ask you regarding the creel limit for the summer. So it's the whole state, it's statewide as far as going from 4 fish to 2?
Yeah, I can handle that one. Yes. So yeah, come June 1st, the general trout regulations, we're seeing that reduction from 4 to 2, and that'll wrap around all through the summer, the fall, the winter, and back around towards the spring period, where you'll either have the preseason closure or the 2 fish limit would remain on all lakes and ponds.
I just like to make a comment regarding that, because especially living in Union County, I feel that some of these ponds, lakes, by the time you get into May, I mean, like the ponds and lakes, especially, like that environment, that condition for trout, when that water warms up and that algae starts, like it's just, to me, I would say, why don't you let the guys take the fish early on in the spring, and then like by reducing it to 2, you're leaving more fish. I've seen fish die in warm water in ponds. Now, if you were to separate the rivers, the cold rivers out in Warren County, especially the rivers, but if you take everything and put everything in a one basket, especially some of these even the suburban rivers, where during the summer and in June, it gets pretty warm. And I see it very difficult for trout to survive through those conditions. And I live on a rollway also, by the rollway here. And that water gets so warm. And when you have a drought condition in the summer, warm conditions, that water is so warm. It's just like, yeah, out in Northwest Jersey, that would work. Like, I would like just let the guys take the fish in the spring, and then like some places, yeah, the 2 would work in streams, but that's my take on that.
Thanks for the comment, Rick. That's definitely something that was highly considered. But let me phrase it in a couple different ways here. So the waters that warm up quickly, our stocking ends for those waters either the last week of April or the first week of May. So on all those waters, we're not stocking, into the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weeks of May like we are on the majority of those other waters that can support trout year round. So just understand that we're not stocking right up until that last, end of May, and then all of a sudden it just drops to 2. So anglers do have 3 full weeks to fish for those fish.
Yeah.
Also, remember that since we opened up the lakes and ponds to fishing, you're getting another 3 weeks on the front end for harvest as well. So those preseason allocations that are very high, those fish are accessible for harvest now, up to 3 weeks prior to opening day. So that's another way to do that. Another way to gain, more days of recreation and additional harvest. Secondly, we are striving for simplicity. I understand the point that not every river or pond can be managed the same way, and yeah, there are places where fish will succumb to temperature, but there's quite a few other places where they won't. And even during that period, we're not cutting off harvest altogether. Like, I think you would have a stronger argument if we dropped it to like 0 harvest, throughout, starting on June 1st. But you can still harvest 2 trout per day. So yeah. I mean, so it's that's I don't feel like that's overly restrictive. So and then up until that point, with a 6 fish per day limit, plenty of other anglers complain about places getting kind of pillaged. So we do want to create more days of recreation. So in those places, so dropping it from 4 to 2 is not only going to provide those last fish in the month of May to kind of stretch longer to get more more days of recreation, but it was also related to the fall program, right? The fewer numbers of fall trout that are very large, they make quite a nice meal. So there's lots of angler interest over the years to reduce that fall creel limit from 4 to something smaller like 2. And the great thing about that is those fish that are stocked in the fall, they're gonna spend more time in the water by decreasing that creel limit. You should still have plenty of trout to fish for in most of those waters stocked in the fall all the way through the winter months to wrap around to the following spring.
Yeah. Understandably, yeah. I think the suburb areas, especially on eastern New Jersey and central, would look different, and northwestern. But that's, I guess that's for the future to see. How that all works out. I'm sure you guys keep an eye on it.
Yeah. So, Rick, I would like to hear back from you at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
definitely.
so if I could spin it a little bit, like if you're still catching a lot of trout at the end of May, I think we have a successful program.
Yeah. I'm commenting on it because I've seen fish die in this, and you're going to add these brood stock to this Mohegan that's Cranford, right? That's exactly where I've seen them perish, as the water. And there's a small brook that comes from the college down it, and they were all laying inside that brook, inside that little brook. As it comes in there, you could have
Right.
jumped in there and grabbed it with your hand.
Yep.
They wanted that cool air because it was the rain, and they were coming in there. But that's just something like that I've noticed.
Yeah. So you're going to have about 2 months to harvest those fish.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully we get them out of there, and we'll have a good time with that. I just want to. I know there's a good amount of participation tonight, but thank you for taking my questions. I don't mean to take too much of the time, but
it's our pleasure. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Regarding Round Valley and like the Route 78 corridor, and I spoke with Mr. Collenberg 2 weeks ago regarding this. It's like by losing Spruce Run and all the work that was being done, like Spruce Run is just years ago was great, but now it's unfishable, like just the water draw on that. But Round Valley would be great to see it really, now that it's repaired, to add just to stock it, like really stock it well. I mean, it's such accessibility around the shoreline also. And it's a great accessibility off the highway, off Route 22. And like any other bigger lakes, it's like, it's the Newark watershed or something, but that's such a great accessible, and it's deeper, and it'll I mean, so many more fish can live in that lake because it's so much deeper and colder. Like adding just more stock in there that are good to catch, and more forage fish. I know that the forage fish are coming back, the alewives, from what the earlier gentleman spoke about. But it seems like it was really starved for forage fish there for quite a while. And, just to see just the ability to go on the shorelines and really, and maybe add hybrid bass to it too, because it's going to be lunker. But
yeah, well, Rick, if I could jump in to address your question.
Yeah, I'll get carried away. So.
That's okay. We all do. That's why we love fishing. We love to discuss it. We love to be out there. I'm not sure how closely you followed the management of Round Valley Reservoir for the past 20 or 25 years, but we certainly don't want to overstock it. The water quality in general is so clean and pristine that there's not much nutrients in there. And if you don't have much nutrients, you don't have much productivity for bait fish. Now, we're in a little window here where there's been a little bit of a resurgence at Round Valley, but we certainly don't want to push it. We want to manage it as a trophy fishery. Justin, it goes back over the last 25 years. Justin is running our lake trout assessment every fall, and he's seeing a crash in the condition of our lake trout there. So So that's a whole other talk. If you're more interested, reach out to Justin. He could give you some great graphs to show you. But we're trying to harvest more fish and reduce stocking because there's really not enough forage to support a true trophy fishery. So I appreciate your interest, but it's really not the scientific way to go.
Yeah, I feel that a lot of lakes in New Jersey just need that stocking support, and to see it's just like there's so much impact on some of these lakes, like water draw, work being done on the quality of water, washing it to them, that it really, when you lose so much water, you're losing the shoreline. There's no spawning on the shorelines in the springtime, no forage fish, sunnies, small bass, whatever these other fish could forage on, you lose all of that because of the draw of the water. All the spawn beds are gone. So even like Spruce Run, that was my other thing. Spruce Run is really unfishable. And to put those resources into Round Valley, I think would really it's just so much water draw in Spruce Run that it's just, I used to fish Spruce Run so much.
Thanks, Rick. We definitely appreciate the feedback, but like as you mentioned, there's a lot of interest in this meeting, so I would like to move on to the next.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't mean to take so much time, but that was okay. All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thanks for all your questions and feedback, Rick. Next up, we have John S.
Hi, good evening. My question is for Kyle. He brought up in his presentation about the lower Rockaway River area. Can you be more specific on what section you're talking about? that they were going to decrease the area due to inaccessible areas to stock.
Yeah, go ahead and take that, Justin.
Yeah, I'll say Justin. Yeah, I can get it if I can say the spot that we dropped.
Yeah, if you
So
want to speak it.
yeah, so we dropped the Mercer Street Bridge. Our lands management crew had some issues with the people there actively trying to take fish out of their nets as they stocked, as well as some issues with safety with paraphernalia in the area, and they mentioned to us that they didn't feel safe stocking it anymore. So that was the reason. So that Mercer Street Bridge, in I believe Justin, you might be able to tell me exactly where it is in
I think
which
that's
town.
the
But
Dover area.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
right in downtown Dover.
I was under the impression when you said Lower Rockaway, it was in the Booton area.
no. So yeah, that Mercer Street Bridge in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Douglas B.
Good evening. I appreciate all the hard work, and I really like a lot of the changes that you have made. Thank you very much. My questions are twofold. One is, with the new signage at water bodies, how will anglers without smartphones be able to get water body specific regulations? And the second question is, how do you determine what the stocking quantities are at particular bodies of water?
I'll take the first question, and Kyle can take the second one. So, as I said earlier, the stocking signs are more of a courtesy to let you know where we're putting the fish, essentially what sections of lakes and ponds, rivers and streams we stock. It really is your responsibility to know the regulations, before you go out. And all that information is found in our Freshwater Fishing Digest, multiple places online. If you ever have any questions or concerns, you can reach out, and contact staff. We have regional fisheries biologists that know the waters, in their areas very well. So, yeah, if you don't have the smartphone, try to, like I was just saying, try to do that research ahead of time. Look in the Freshwater Fishing Digest. There's lots of good information in there about the creel limits and seasons.
So what's available online is also available in the digest, the print version.
Yes, and there's actually much more online too. If it whets your appetite to just go to the digest, that's great. But then all those apps on there where you can actually zoom in, into the mapping, and you can see sections of stream highlighted. You can see lakes highlighted within that trout stocking app. You'll see an icon of the fish every water body that's stocked.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say anglers have become very accustomed to relying on the signs for days in which water bodies are closed, seasons and start dates. But under this new system, we're just going to modernize. So if you have any problems, please reach out. You can contact me directly or any of our staff, and we'll point you in the right direction if you have any questions moving forward.
And I'll just quickly say those mapping apps are available both on mobile devices, but also desktop. So you can access that through your computer.
And then Kyle, if you could answer the gentleman's question about the allocations.
Yeah, so for our allocations, we take a lot of different factors into account. As for if you're looking at streams and rivers and lakes and ponds, it's physical factors, biological factors, and social factors. So we take everything from, if it's a river, how much the flow is, if it's flowing hard or high CFS, low CFS, the size of the stream, the length of how much we stock it. For lakes and ponds, it's surface area. And then we also take into account whether or not the water body itself is a seasonal fishery or a year-round fishery. So if it's a year-round fishery, it's going to get a bump in the number of fish it gets, while if it's seasonal, it might get a little bit less. Obviously, the bigger rivers and the bigger lakes are going to get more trout than the smaller ones, just the size factor. And then we also take into account social factors for them. So for rivers and streams, we take into account land ownership. So if it's public or private. So if it's public, if there's a lot of public access, it's going to get some more fish. If it's more private, it's going to get less fish. Parking and angler interest, the more an angle, the more ability for people to fish it, the more fish it's going to get. And then for lakes and ponds, we take into account the population density of the municipalities around the lake. So the more people that live around the lake, the more fish it's going to get. And then we take into account angler access. So if a water body has a lot of open shoreline, a ton of people can fish it, there's no restrictions, they'll get a bump in fish. We do take into account boat access. So if it's a body of water that's bigger than 10 acres, if it has a boat ramp or the ability to put a canoe or a car topper in it, that'll get a bump. If it doesn't, it'll actually get a reduction. And then also other trout stocked water bodies nearby. So if a pond is surrounded by, 15 lakes and ponds or rivers and streams within a 10-mile radius, it will get a little bit less fish. But if it's the only one in an area, it'll actually get a bump in fish. So there's a lot of factors that get into it, but those are some of the main ones that we take into account.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, this is Greg S. I was called on, but my mic wasn't working. Can I ask my question?
Sure, go ahead.
I apologize. The 3-week pre-season stocking dates, will that be posted? My other question is a lake like Speedwell Lake, where it has a spillway that transitions into the Whippany River, will the spillway be the delineating line between what's considered the lake body and the river body? Those are my 2 questions.
Yeah, I'll take the first one. So we are not announcing the stocking dates during the preseason. As consistent with previous years, the rivers and streams are closed, so we don't want to encourage people to go out there and poach, essentially, because they'll be closed. So we wouldn't want to announce that. And we're taking a different strategy. We're trying to we're trying to do something kind of new here, where during that 3-week preseason, each day of stocking, towards the end of the day in the afternoon, we're going to announce what was stocked that day. So you're not going to have a whole list of across the state ahead of time. It's going to be more spontaneous, and we're going to release those stocking events on social media and on our website. So, for example, if water bodies A, B, and C are stocked on Monday, it's going to kind of get stocked, through those morning hours. Once we know that the stocking has been completed, we're going to make a social media post, and that's intended to spread anglers out. It's intended to, we'll say, like, benefit local anglers, so people aren't traveling from far away to come kind of to your home waters. It's going to give you like that little bit of an edge if you're a local. And one really nice thing that it does is, rather than put all of our eggs in one basket for like an opening day experience, we're kind of spreading that opening day out on those lakes and ponds over a 3-week period. So if you have a rainy day, a bad day, unfavorable conditions, you can't quite make it because you have to work, really it'll be kind of be a unique opportunity where you'll have multiple opportunities to fish a water body for the first time that season. Second question, I forget it. Can you repeat that second question for me, please?
No problem. Speedwell Lake has an upper portion which is still water that transitions into moving water that is technically the beginning of a portion of the Whippany River. Fish typically get stocked above and often make their ways over the spillway into the lower portion. Is it okay preseason to fish below the dam? Even though they were stocked above for the lake stocking?
Yeah, the answer would be no. If you're fishing in the pond or lake, you're fine. If you're fishing in the river or stream below a dam, that would be closed.
Thank you for your answers.
Sure.
Next up, we have Thomas B.
Hi, thanks for all the information. I really appreciate it. I have a couple small questions here. Just to clarify what was just said, on social media, you will announce when it was stocked that day, or what lakes were stocked that day.
Yes, yeah. At some point in late afternoon, haven't quite decided yet, but I'd say sometime between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, There'll be a social media post every day for 3 weeks of stocking, and it will specifically list the waters that were stocked that day.
All right, thank you. And I'm just assuming Facebook is like one of the avenues you could use,
Yep.
like look at those posts.
That's it. Yep.
And it's the NJ Fish and Wildlife page.
I believe we're planning to post it on our trout stocking page as well.
Okay. And I also wanted to ask, what will there be any extra efforts to enforce the new regulations, such as the stocking limits? Because I'm a catch release person, so I want to make sure that the lakes I'm fishing are not being overfished illegally.
Yeah. So one of the great benefits of this new regulation change is that our conservation officers are going to have a greater opportunity to have a positive interaction. What I mean by that is, over the years, our conservation police officers have come back and said, I feel really bad. There's a family of 4 fishing on a beautiful day. They have cabin fever. It's a nice warm day in late March. The family was fishing, and I had to kick them off. I had to make the mom and dad kind of look like a criminal in front of their own kids for something as benign as fishing. So what that's doing there is, rather than our conservation officers receiving the phone call and having to kick people off, they can go and have that positive interaction, see how they're doing, teach them how to bait their hook, and can spend more time actively checking people's krills.
Okay, thank you. And just quickly, what was the name of that app that's been discussed a lot?
Yeah, so there's multiple. So there are apps you find on our website, right? So it's not, you don't go to like the app store to purchase it or download it. You go to njfishandwildlife.com, or you can scan that new QR code on the trout stocking signs. And there's 2 apps. One is the trout stocking app, and one is the freshwater fishing regulation app.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, next up we have John G.
Hi, yes. I don't know, I guess you can hear me? Or yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, we can.
I fish pretty often. I was actually out today. I'm in South Jersey, and I usually do pretty well out there. But so my question was for these broad stock lakes that you guys stock, which I think the overall program is, you guys are doing an excellent job. The broad stock programs, you're putting 50 trout in GMP tro. So I fish there, and it's very difficult to fish, and there's a lot of seaweed and algae. And I know they put aerators in there and the bubblers recently, but I was just there the other day trying to fish. And as soon as you get out there and try to cast something down, within 1 to 2 second count, you're pulling out seaweed already. So I just kind of know that I don't think most of those fish are going to survive very long in there at all. And I know you stock that with broad stock often. I noticed you guys only do a preseason stock in there also. I guess I understand that the lake's very accessible, and it's a lot of people do fish there, but I just don't see how anybody does very well there at all. And I don't know if somebody wanted to clarify the reasoning for that at GAP Tro.
Yeah, hi, John. I can chime in about that one. It's mostly filamentous algae that you're talking about. And I think most of those fish should still be available. It's not going to be toxic to the fish or anything like that. It's more of a nuisance for anglers, but those fish will still be available. It's something that's kind of out of our control. I don't think it'll be this bad this year. It's been a very cold winter, so I think there'll still be some room. But again, those broodstock lakes do get rotated. So next year, we won't stock GMP tro. It'll be somewhere else, but they'll still be in there. I don't think it's too concerning from my end.
Okay. Yeah, I also want to say too that I was down at Vineland Park last year, and just to let you guys know, in August I was still catching trout down there also in Vineland Park. So I was impressed with that.
And
But that's all I have.
I'll chime in and just add a little bit additional. So a number of years back, GMP Tro was part of the full program. And when we brought on South Vineland Park Pond, GMP Tro was then dropped to just a preseason stocking. And the reason for that was because it was still popular of a location. So even though the other water body was brought on so close, we still continue to have a high interest in Giampetro, and that's why we continue to utilize it as a broodstock water body. However, we can always evaluate that early on in the season and see if that filamentous algae, which didn't used to be a problem, if that is a problem now, we can take that into account for future stockings of those broodstock.
Okay, yeah, thanks for your time. I definitely think that should be at least concerning. Some of
Yeah,
looked into.
We can take a look.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right, next up we have Vince W.
Yeah, hi. Appreciate these calls. I think they're fantastic. The question I have is on the regs for the trout lakes, the holdover trout lakes. It says brown trout, rainbow trout, and their hybrids. And I wanted to know, like, how common are the hybrids, and what is the source? Are they coming out of the hatchery, or are they after the fact breeding in the lake?
Yeah, we just have that in a regulation in case, like tiger trout are stocked, for example. So it's not an indication that there's necessarily hybrids in there, whether they're natural or stocked. Natural hybridization does occur in some of our streams. We certainly wouldn't expect it in our lakes, but the regulation is just written that way that, if you catch a rainbow or a brown or a hybrid thereof, they're regulated under the same rules.
Oh, great. Thanks for the answer. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, next up we have IVN.
Thank you so much for doing this, first of all, like modernizing the angler's experience with the QR code and promoting the public to get involved in the local waters. I think this is fantastic. My question, I think, would be more appropriate maybe for the meeting on April 22nd for the aquatic invasive species, but I'll give it a shot. It was mentioned several times that 11 native species were put into the endangered list. And I was wondering if the introduction of trout have an impact on the native species, and if so, are there steps to help the native species thrive while stocking the waters?
I can jump in and address that. So as fisheries managers, it's a balancing act to provide recreation, but also to protect our native species. And all of the different categories in between. So some of our policies, if I could state them quickly, is if we're going to consider stocking a new water body, we want to be assured that we know what's in there as a starting point. So our biologists would go out there, prior to stocking, would go out and do a fishery survey through multiple methods to look for large fish, look for young fish, to determine if there's a presence of any fish there that could be impacted by stocking. So that always factors in. And one example is, we have a lot of rare native species within the pinelands, a unique habitat type. So our staff generally does not support stocking much of the pinelands for multiple reasons. One, to conserve native species, but also because the acidic water, it isn't very conducive to many of our typical species that we stock. Scott, if you had anything you'd like to elaborate on there or not?
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing I was going to mention, Sean, was something that Ken mentioned earlier, was with, how we manage brook trout, and we are actively, and as time kind of moves forward, we're choosing locations where where there's native brook trout populations, we're not stocking on top of them, and more we're dropping locations in trying to create opportunities where there's wild trout populations. We're trying to manage for those wild trout populations or native brook trout populations, and focus on managing habitat more than managing stocking fish in those locations. And even on top of that, we're looking to add those species of endangered, threatened, and special concern, and where we're stocking to try to mitigate those impacts, not stock in certain locations as well. So we're always looking to mitigate that competition with those species of concern. But it's always like a work in progress because we're always up against some of the history of stocking in the past.
Mm-hmm. That's really good to know. And I'm glad to know that there's a lot of surveys, and even though it's a work in progress, it's progress. I like that. Thank you so much for answering my question.
Okay. Next up, we have Nick M.
Hi. I have a comment and then a question. So as a wild trout angler, I'm very happy to hear your position on not stocking brown brook trout. I know you got a lot of thumbs down as you were describing that, but I just wanted to make it clear there's at least a segment of the public that really supports that position. So thank you for that. The question I had, maybe I missed a little bit of the detail. I was just looking at your website and I couldn't find it. The changes to the stocking signs, does that also include the signs that would designate special regulation waters? Or is it still going to be very clear to people that such and such is a wild trout stream and, you know, no brook trout can be retained or whatever? I just
Yeah.
have a fear that if we rely too much on people scanning QR codes, they're not going to do it, and we're going to see people not following the rules.
Right. I can address that because there's a lot to kind of unpack there. When you mentioned like wild trout streams, we actually don't post them in any capacity, so that's really like a non-factor. The wild trout streams are kind of a little more off the beaten path, and we're not posting any signage on those. However,
You used to.
Yeah, years ago. It's I want to say it's probably been 20 years or more since we have. So we might have a better time frame on that, than I do. But I'd say at least within the last 15 to 20 years, I don't believe we've posted any of our wild trout stream, signage. Your first question was regarding the special regulation areas. At this point in time, we were not planning on differentiating those signs, which certainly acknowledge, might be a little bit confusing to folks. But the intention there is to get people, more engaged with scanning those codes, determining what the regs are for that particular water body. But your best case scenario is to, look into it before you go out.
Yeah, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about the people that stumble, especially like on streams where part of the stream is special regulations, but not the whole stream. So South Branch of the Raritan would be a good example where, depending on where you're fishing, you may need to follow different regs than the general regs areas. And if it's not clearly posted as such, you're going to have people just thinking they're okay following the general regs there, regs.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the path we're on, at this point in time. But it doesn't mean we can't, modify things moving forward. So I think the best plan is to move forward the way we're headed right now. If it's a problem, if we hear from law enforcement that people, are non-compliant with the regulations, it's something we can always readdress. I hear you.
Thanks.
I hear you. There is concern in that area.
All right, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, next up is Richard C.
Okay, just want a point of interest. I saw that you dropped Colonial Lake from your stocking programs. Now, is that the same? Oh, is that the same? I'm sorry, what's wrong?
This is Paul C. I'll wait.
Thanks, Paul.
You're Paul C. I'm RC. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Richard.
Just a quick question. Colonial Lake, you're dropping it from the stocking program. Is that the same Colonial Lake that is located in Colonial Park in Somerset?
No, that's not. That's within Colonial Park in Somerset. That's Spooky Brook Park Pond that we stock.
I don't know if it's a pond. It's a large lake there.
Yeah. Within Colonial Park, there's a series of 3 or 4 ponds. The largest of which we stock is Spooky Brook. That's pond. Right. There's also like a powder mill and a duck pond.
Right. You're still going to stock them?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go back to Paul.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for accommodating me. I had a little microphone problem. First off, like I said, very good job. I consider the privilege of fishing, important. And I heard the gentleman talk before about positive reinforcement and, interaction with people and law enforcement. And I get that, I'm sure those guys feel horrible when they have to kick mom and pop and little Timmy off a stream or a pond. I get that. But let's talk about some negative interactions. And I don't mean with law enforcement. I mean people outright taking advantage of this, of the trout stocking. I'm sure this may not be the 100% venue to talk about this, but what are law enforcement's like? Is there going to be any improvement on the availability of, rangers and fish and game support? I have a tendency to fish Flatbrookville, way down there. So when I see people down there using cast nets and other such things, we know that law enforcement, game warden is not going to make it down there in time before it's all said and done. Maybe, I hate to say this, but maybe we need to start taking it, making examples of people and getting the word out. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is 100% the venue for that, but after all, we all pay our dues. We buy our fishing licenses, buy our trout stamps. Is there anything on the horizon about like more enforcement for that?
Yeah, I can address that. I don't believe we have any law enforcement staff on the call at this time. If we do, feel free to unmute yourself. I can make a couple comments there. Still the best course of action if you see any wrongdoing, is to call 877 warn DEP. The response time might not be always, incredibly satisfying, but if it's not reported, they can't do anything about it. Secondly, I believe this is an accurate statement. We are currently at full capacity of staff, I believe, from law enforcement, backfilling positions as people retire. So as reported by our law enforcement chief, he believes we're in a great place right now with a full number of full-time employees. So hopefully that reflects, in the water, and hopefully you end up, seeing the same thing.
I guess 2026 seasonal will be the determining factor as far as that goes. But sure. I appreciate. I think.
And one thing that's really important. So every decision we make is very well thought out. I'd like to just relate this to the removal of the preseason closure. So law enforcement has like a hierarchy of priorities that they respond to. If they get a call of somebody fishing a lake or a pond previously during the closed season when it was closed, they have to go out there and respond to that. Now it's going to be a little bit more subjective, because those anglers are allowed to fish those lakes and ponds. Law enforcement doesn't have to drop what they're doing and run halfway across the county. They can continue to patrol on their route that they were anticipating to patrol. I'm not sure. Did I say that in a good enough way?
Yeah, I get what you're saying fully. I fully understand that.
Yeah. So a couple of these actions should free up more time of law enforcement rather than dropping what they're doing for 3 weeks, running out and chasing people off of ponds. They can reallocate that time to a better usage. Also, with the new signage, it's kind of tangential benefits, but law enforcement hangs those signs. Personally, I'd rather, and I think most anglers would agree, we'd rather see law enforcement spending their time, policing the fishing game regulations rather than spending time posting signs, right? If every hour matters, every day matters, that should be a time-saving aspect for our law enforcement, that they can spend more time doing actual live patrols.
Let's get some volunteer programs going. I got my hand up for that. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I think that was shut down years ago when you had a lot of overzealous kind of.
No. I'm not talking about law enforcement. But yes, that was shut down years ago. I'm talking about for such stuff like that, putting signs up, clearing stream, clearing debris on the streams and stuff like that.
Yep.
Let's get some volunteer, aside from Trout Unlimited and everything, let's get something through the state going. Might not be a bad idea.
Yep.
Yeah, and Sean, and let me add, because law enforcement's not here necessarily to defend themselves, but a
I
lot
got
of
no
times
problem with law enforcement. Oh, believe me. Yeah.
No, I just mean because a lot of times our law enforcement, they're purposely unseen. They do a good job of kind of being stealthy. They're on the streams. They're looking at anglers. They're making sure they have licenses. They're looking at creel limits. A lot of times from afar. Just because you don't always see the law enforcement there doesn't mean that they're not around. Now, of course, like Sean's saying, they are still spending a good deal of time interacting with anglers and teaching and things like that as well. But I just want to make that point that, a lot of anglers, I hear it all the time. Oh, I haven't seen the law enforcement. They haven't checked me in years. Well, you might have been checked. That's why we still have the law of having to display your license. So you may have been checked and didn't know it. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well, that, our law enforcement, they do a really great job. They are just like anybody else. They're stretched thin, but they're out there. They're checking anglers. They're also checking turkey hunters during the spring season. So just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that they're out there, and if you're not following the rules, they're going to get you. And calling that Warren DEP number, they might be a lot closer than you think. You don't know. So just want to make that plug.
All right. Well, thank you for your answers. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
And I'll just mention, if any of you have questions that you didn't get asked, please reach out to the staff. I believe you'll also be receiving an email as a follow-up to this meeting at any point in time throughout the year. Please feel free to reach out to staff. We enjoy the interaction. So let's take one more question.
All right. So the last question, or last person, is Michael Z.
Thank you. In under the wire. I'd like to know why Strawbridge Lake in Moorestown, Bertha County has not been considered for trout stocking.
Yeah, I believe it's more so, isn't there a lot of other local waters around it? And that's kind of why we've always steered away from it. And it's pretty large too, right? But you might have a little more information than me with Strawbridge Lake.
I was just going to say, I think that historically the question has come up in the past. I've fielded the question before. You're correct that it probably would make a nice location, and it, like as Eric said, that it ultimately comes down to the number of other, kind of nearby waters within that region. So.
Okay, it is a lot of access, so it's something that would be. All right, thank you.
All right, with that, I'd like to call the meeting to an end. Just a couple statistics real quick. I believe we had over 932 people register. That's a record for our fisheries meetings. As I was keeping track, the most I saw at any one point in time was nearly 300 people. And I realized people come on, on and off to the meeting. So we'll have some good statistics afterwards to see how many unique anglers had participated. But yeah, I just want to sincerely thank you all for participation. Thank you, staff, for the preparation and the dedication throughout the year to manage our fisheries resources for the public. Keep the comments coming in. We always want that feedback. We always strive to improve the program for you and for our natural resources. So with that, within a couple of weeks, you'll be able to find a video recording of this meeting. If you want to hear our answers again, or if you want to share it with a friend, please feel free to visit njfishingwildlife.com. Thanks again. Have a great night.